Hello there, I'm Danny, and these two beautiful things behind me are two Sony OLED TVs. Over the last couple months, Sony sent me the A80L. Oh, I hate this part, it's terrifying. They're higher end OLED, it's not the highest end, but it's pretty high up there. And they also sent me the HD A5000 soundbar and the entire surround system. So I've been checking it out. It's, obviously it's good and I like it, but they didn't pay me to review it or anything like that, so it's literally just me sharing with you what I think about it. Today we're gonna go over basically my overall impressions of the Sony system, comparing the A80L to the older model here, Bravia Core, the XR cognitive processor, picture quality, and just kind of whether I think it's worth it or not. If it is, it might not be. So I actually bought the A80K here, the 2022 model, last year because I was sick of my LG OLED, which is now relegated to the bedroom. I loved the picture, but I hated the interface. And I just wasn't like a huge fan of it. Like a lot of times I would plug stuff into it and I was having problems with interconnectivity. And that's why I eventually chalked up the funds to go for the A80K, because I knew that it had Chromecast built in, and overall Sony integrated systems are a little bit more together and with it. Now, when they sent me the A80L here, and I took it out of the box, I realized both of these TVs have the exact same form factor. This looks nearly identical to the previous TV. Like literally, the legs on the A80K here are the same legs that go into this one. They fit perfectly together. So some of the key differences between the L here and the K model is the L is about 10% brighter. To my eyeballs, I can't really tell. But there are a few scenes where there's like darker shadows where I think it's just a little bit easier to see a better contrast ratio, and I think the brightness has a little bit to do with that. Also, I have massive windows in my house, and I use an OLED TV. And I know that most people will want an LED TV to compete with the window, but your eyes get used to it after a while. Like brightness and nit ratings aren't everything to me. The other difference is the A80K uses artificial intelligence apparently to up the quality of the image if you enable those features. And the L here has something called the cognitive XR chip, or the cognitive intelligence. So they're taking away the artificial part because they're saying that the cognitive ability of it is like, it puts ideas together. Well, I did do a test on this and my results may not be great. So Sony has something new called their cognitive XR processor that goes into the A80L. But everywhere I looked online, it's very ambiguous what exactly the difference is. So here I am being filmed by my Sony camera on the A80K, and now on the A80L. Can you tell a difference? Here's some really bad text. It's kind of garbled, hard to see. On the A80K. So now you can see exactly how it's interpreting different things. Is there a difference? Is it doing something? So if you looked closely at this little thing I was moving around the screen, you'll notice there's no purple in this, but on that clip, it was like pushing purple onto it and it was getting confused. So clearly, cognitive intelligence doesn't work maybe as well as they want it to. And in general, like my impression of like the image clarity with the cognitive intelligence is that it just kind of like smoothed everything out. But everywhere I looked online, it's very ambiguous what exactly the difference is. So here I am being filmed by my Sony camera. Like, it looks like everyone's wearing like a fishnet. It's great that they're working on like artificial intelligence kind of stuff to make the picture even better, but there is a reason cinematographers in movies get paid millions of dollars. It's because they dedicate their lives to figuring out what the best picture quality is going to be for that cinematic experience, and usually it gets tested on multiple different screens to make sure it's optimized for public viewing. Just turn off all the clarity settings, like you don't really need them. One of the things I tend to kind of like about the Sony TVs is you can make them as simplistic or complicated as you want. You can really dive into these menus and go crazy. One thing I'll say specifically that's been better about the L versus the K here, over the last year, the K model, about once, maybe twice a month, it'll just randomly disconnect from my internet. The new L one doesn't do it, but this old one does it. So it must be some sort of little software glitch where it just decides to randomly disconnect. And the only way to get it to reconnect is to physically get the remote and turn on the TV. And then it'll just surprise, it'll connect again. So it's kind of annoying. One of the other new features on the L is it has this little weird gaming mode, which took me forever to find on the remote, by the way. So here's both remotes. There's a little button called menu on the new one. The other one just has, the old one says 1, 2, 3 on it. This menu button is what you click when you're playing a game, and it allows you to like add crosshairs. It'll pull up the game and you can adjust like the black levels so you can see in the shadows if somebody's trying to hide or it's a scary video game and you don't want to get scared anymore. And apparently you can also change the screen size, but I didn't see the option on this TV, so I'm not really certain if it's on this or a higher level model. And next we'll talk about the Bravia Core app. It's like a super high bitrate streaming service. Apparently like Netflix, Prime, other services are like 15-ish to 20-ish megabytes per second for their 4K. Well, the Bravia Core pure stream stuff is apparently like 30-ish to 80-ish megabytes per second, which is significantly more, and you're gonna get a lot less compression on your streaming experience. And I have to say, like, I was a little skeptical at first, but then I actually turned it on and checked it out, and you can tell. When you're looking at text, you can see like a lot of compression sometimes on the screen. And with the Bravia Core stream, like I saw no compression on the text. Like it was just pure. It looked like you were looking at the actual film print. It's something I can't really show you through the camera. You just have to sit down and watch a movie on one of these things. Like it was actually pretty good. And if you buy one of these TVs, I think it usually comes with like 5 free movies. The only catch is that the Bravia Core app doesn't have a ton of movies. So it's kind of like a nice to have, but not necessarily needed. It's more like a treat they're giving you for a few movies. But by no means would that make Netflix or any other service obsolete. The only other way you're gonna get really good video streaming by like to that quality is just literally plopping in like a real 4K Blu-ray. This is the A5000 soundbar. This thing is massive, by the way, absolutely huge when you take it out of the box. Here we go. It's thick. The biggest plus I will give it is that when you hook it up to the Sony TV, it is like instant. Oh my God, I didn't have to do anything. They literally just connected, everything connected automatically. I didn't have to like do any weird Bluetooth thing.
That's impressive.
That's pretty impressive. I actually didn't really like it when I first plugged it in. And the reason I didn't like it was when I was playing the sound through the soundbar, it would take away the TV sound. The TV itself is a speaker, essentially. It has little actuators in the back that use the screen, if I'm not mistaken, to actually actuate the screen to make the sound. When I was playing the soundbar, I was missing a lot of like the higher treble range in a lot of the noise. Like the soundbar sounded much better for like lower end stuff. And I don't know if I had it miscalibrated or what, but what fixed it was when I finally hooked up the soundbar through a 3.5mm aux cable into the TV to use as the center speaker. As soon as you use the Sony TV as the center speaker, it fixes everything. Like you have the full gamut of sound. You have the low basses from the subwoofer, the great overall lower to higher mids on the soundbar itself, and then the TV really picks up the higher notes. And when I was watching Bravia Core with the speaker, it was a good experience. Like the Dolby Atmos 5.1 channels or whatever, like I don't really care. Like as long as it sounds good. It sounded really good. The only soundbar I've used before this was actually the Vizio soundbars, which were just a cheaper, they were decent, but they are definitely not up to the same level as the Sony soundbar. I know I haven't tried Bose and I haven't tried Sonos yet, so my opinion might change once I pick those up. But in terms of seamless integration and good quality, once you're like using the Sony ecosystem, it's pretty solid. So my overall impression of these TVs, which one should you buy? Well, I'm gonna say the A80K is still the better value. Like it's going down in price because it's now a year old, but it has 95% of the same kind of abilities as the L series. The only thing you're not getting with the L is the gaming setup, the cognitive XR processor, which we kind of saw as weird anyways. And that's about it. There's probably some other things in there, but overall, I think the K is still the way to go. There's no reason to upgrade if you already have the K, especially. So I would be keeping my eye out on the K series for sales if you're looking into one. Anyways, I hope that was helpful. So thanks so much for watching. And yeah, we go bye-bye now. Bye-bye.